is the frontier? The concept conjures up thoughts of our species, our planet, and our civilization, and it sort of frames them in this fantastically ambitious context. The stakes really are high when one contemplates the intersection of the future and human civilization. But one of the first things that I realized about the frontier is that we don't have to look to the future to find it, because there's a very real sense that we're living in it today. Now, many people don't believe that we're living in any particularly interesting times. And granted, one could argue that our ancestors would have been just as fascinated by their times as we are of ours. But I believe that we live in a truly spectacular era in human history. Consider for a moment the sheer number of planetary firsts in recent memory. Just over a century ago, the Wright brothers, nervously, lifted off the ground for about 12 seconds. After 4 billion years of life on Earth, a species had evolved flight with the aid of technology. 42 years later, we entered the atomic age in a New Mexican desert. And just 24 years after that, we strapped our fragile mammalian bodies to rockets and flew to the moon. Okay, revolutions in human progress used to be measured in thousands or even tens of thousands of years. And yet we have the first human flight, weapons of mass destruction, space exploration, animal cloning, and the internet, all within a single human lifetime. It took just 66 years to go from not even being able to fly to landing on the moon. So the distance that has historically separated our dreams from reality has shrunk to a point so near that for all intents and purposes, we're fully immersed within it. The frontier isn't just tomorrow, it's now. And yet, the accelerating progress of our species has led to certain unique problems. Climate change and sustainable energy, for example, are two huge technological hurdles that we face moving forward. But if the last century has been any indication, we humans are extremely good at solving technological challenges, so I'm not worried about our ability to innovate. What does worry me, though, is the current state of social, political, and economic will necessary to undertake grand challenges. So I set off on a mission of trying to manufacture social interest in planetary issues after I was inspired by a man named Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan was an astrophysicist and an active promoter of science in the public eye. And in the year 1980, he produced a groundbreaking TV series called Cosmos. At the time, he actually took a lot of flack from his scientific colleagues for selling out by appearing on television. But he understood the weight and influence that media can have on a society. 31 years later, Cosmos stands as the most watched PBS series ever, leaving in its wake an entire generation of inspired scientists. And yet it goes underappreciated by today's generation because of its dated style. Thankfully, though, Sagan also produced an amazing audiobook called The Pale Blue Dot, in which he left his raw and poetic words digitally immortalized. And this became the inspiration for my project. I decided to sift through its chapters and distill short narratives, which I could then combine with modern music and imagery. I called this project the Sagan series, and while we still have a long way to go in promoting a planetary perspective, it's a small step that I hope can inspire others, and which I hope you all enjoy today.
We were hunters and foragers. The frontier was everywhere. We were bounded only by the earth and the ocean and the sky. The open road still softly calls. Our little terraqueous globe is the madhouse of those 100,000 millions of worlds. We who cannot even put our own planetary home in order, riven with rivalries and hatreds, are we to venture out into space? By the time we're ready to settle even the nearest other planetary systems, we will have changed. The simple passage of so many generations will have changed us. Necessity will have changed us. We're an adaptable species. It will not be we who reach Alpha Centauri and the other nearby stars. It will be a species very like us, but with more of our strengths and fewer of our weaknesses. More confident, far-seeing, capable, and prudent. For all our failings, despite our limitations and fallibilities, we humans are capable of greatness. What new wonders undreamt of in our time will we have wrought in another generation and another? How far will our nomadic species have wandered by the end of the next century and the next millennium? Our remote descendants, safely arrayed on many worlds through the solar system and beyond, will be unified by their common heritage, by their regard for their home planet, and by the knowledge that whatever other life may be, the only humans in all the universe come from Earth. They will gaze up and strain to find the blue dot in their skies. They will marvel at how vulnerable the repository of all our potential once was, how perilous our infancy, how humble our beginnings, how many rivers we had to cross before we found our way.